Okay, here's our short video on rotations. So a reminder, rotations are turns. Just means that you're twisting something, think about a tire that's rotating on the car, it's turning in a circle. Turns are measured in degrees. So the ones we typically see are 90, 180, and 270. And direction, clockwise and counterclockwise. Now we've already talked about this a little bit, but just so that you have some kind of clear notes to go back and look at, make sure you're writing all this down. 90 degrees is like one quadrant turn, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I just think about 90 degrees is one turn, 180 is going to be two turns, and then 270 will be three turns. Okay, if you did four turns, that would be 360, which would get you right back to where you started. And then directions, clockwise and counterclockwise. This is just so that you have this written down. You all don't read clocks very much anymore. So clockwise is going to turn kind of that direction, and counterclockwise will go the other way. So if you literally had to look at a clock to watch the hand move around, that's where that comes from. So rotations are a rigid motion. So I'm just reminding you, rigid motion basically means that they're congruent. It's a transformation that makes them congruent. So they're a rigid motion because the image is congruent, or you can say the same size shape. The best word there, though, is going to be congruent. And I'm really just trying to remind you of vocabulary. Okay, we're going to do two quick little questions, and then I'm going to show you some strategies, and then we'll be done. All right, so two quick questions. This first one that you need to write down says, why does 180 degrees not have a direction? Or why does direction not matter? So think about that. If this is the original place, and 180 means to turn it 2 times. Well, if I go 2 times clockwise, notice I'm moving like 2 quadrants. Well, that's what I mean by 2 turns. So I'm moving 2 quadrants clockwise. My F is going to look like this now. Okay? Well, if you turn 2 quadrants, that's clockwise. If you go 2 quadrants counterclockwise, look where you end up. The same place, right? So 180, it doesn't matter whether you turn it clockwise or counterclockwise, so it's important that you have that note down. That's actually a test question as well, so make sure you remember that. The second little question before we do an example, what is 270 clockwise the same as? It's not worded very well, but this is where we are, all right? So 270, and I'm gonna actually pick this up to show you, okay? If the original picture looks like this, and I'm going to do 270 clockwise. Okay, that means I'm going to take this image and I'm going to turn it 270, we said was 3 turns, and clockwise is going this way. Okay, so I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to turn it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So if I go 3 times clockwise, 1, 2, 3, that's going to get me to this picture right here. So the question is there a shorter way to get there? So if you think about that for a second, hopefully you can come up with an answer. The answer is yes, you could have just turned it back that way. So if you're doing 1 turn back that way, that's 90 degrees. And think about now you're going counterclockwise. So you need to know that 270 one direction is the same thing as 90 going the other direction. That's a shortcut in case you ever have to do that. All right, so let's look at, we're going to take one note on strategy, and then I'm just going to kind of walk you through an example. The biggest strategy that you can use with rotations is to use a graphing whiteboard. Now, we figured out the other day, some of you just see it, but rotations I think are the hardest to see and actually produce after you see it. So let me show you an example of what I mean by use a graphing whiteboard. So let's say that you've been given this picture and your job is to rotate that 90 degrees. Well, if that's just your picture, it's kind of hard to see, and I kind of showed you this with the little Post-it note, right? So with the graphing whiteboard, what I've done, so let's say, I'm going to give us an actual instruction here. Let's say we're supposed to be making this go clockwise 90 degrees. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken that picture and I've just plotted it on my graphing whiteboard. And so what I'm going to do is take my graphing whiteboard and I'm literally going to turn it. 90 degrees means one turn, and clockwise, again, is going this way, right? So I'm going to take my graphing whiteboard and I'm physically going to turn it one turn, boop, 90 degrees. Now, the way that this strategy works is this is what my image should look like. So I'm going to go back on my graph and I'm just going to copy these points down. And if you label them, you can even see, well, this is A prime now. B prime is going to be over here. And then C prime is going to be down here. So I literally just, I physically turned it. I didn't just imagine what it would look like turned. I actually did that. And now you can see you have your pre-image and your image, which is a 90-degree turn. Notice it's turned. It's not facing the same direction anymore, clockwise. All right, so make sure you have that, and we will start with graphing whiteboards tomorrow.